A Christmas Eve that changed everything. Don't you dare ask us to cancel our plans again. We've had these Elton John tickets for months. My mother's voice rang loudly through the phone, echoing in my hospital room. I sat there in shock, gripping my phone tightly with trembling hands. It was Christmas Eve, and instead of being home with my children, I was lying in a hospital bed at Las Vegas Medical Center. My 2-year-old twins, Ethan and Emily, played quietly in the corner, their little voices a soft contrast to the harshness of my mother's words. A nurse named Valerie stood beside me, adjusting the 4 in my arm and checking my vitals. The pain in my abdomen was unbearable, sharp and twisting like a knife inside me, but what hurt even more was the cold, emotionless expression on my mother's face through the video call. I had called my parents in desperation. The doctors had found internal bleeding, and I needed emergency surgery. I had no one else to watch my children, and I hoped, that my parents would step up and help me. I was wrong. They didn't care that I was sick, they didn't care that I was alone. All they cared about was their concert tickets. The forgotten daughter. My name is Natasha Wilson. I am 33 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I have been invisible to my own family. My younger sister, Jessica, was the golden child, the perfect daughter in my parents' eyes. She could do no wrong. Meanwhile, no matter how hard I tried, I was never good enough. As a child, I learned to keep my feelings to myself. When Jessica wanted something, she got it. When I needed something, I was told to stop being difficult. It had always been that way. I should have expected this. I should have known that even now, when I was facing a life-threatening surgery, they would still put Jessica and their own desires first. But their next words still managed to break something inside me. You're becoming a real nuisance and burden, Natasha, my father said, his voice flat and unbothered. We're retired now. We deserve to enjoy our lives without your constant problems. A burden. That's what I was to them. Not a daughter, not a grieving widow, not a struggling mother. Just a burden. I had been sending them money every single month for the last 3 years. Ever since they took early retirement, I gave them $2,500 without fail, money that could have gone toward my own children, my own future. Even after my husband, James, passed away 6 months ago in a tragic car accident, I continued to support them. Why? Because I believed that family should help each other. Because I wanted them to love me. Because I was a fool. Tears slid silently down my cheeks as I looked away from the screen. A kindness I never knew. Valerie, the nurse, must have noticed my pain, not just the physical pain, but the deep emotional wounds my parents had just reopened. She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. My friend Olivia is a professional nanny, she said softly. She specializes in helping children who have been through trauma. Let me call her for you. For a moment, I hesitated. Could I trust a stranger to care for my babies? But then I looked at my twins, my sweet, innocent babies who had already lost their father. They deserved someone who would care for them, not people who saw them as burdens. Yes, I whispered, please call her. As I ended the call with my parents, I felt something shift inside me. A weight began to lift. For the first time, I allowed myself to see the truth. They had never truly loved me. Not in the way parents are supposed to love their children. And I couldn't keep holding on, hoping they would change. A lifetime of being overlooked. As I lay in that hospital bed, waiting for Olivia to arrive, my mind drifted back to my childhood. I remembered the time I won a writing competition in middle school. I had been so excited to show my parents my award, but they barely glanced at it because Jessica had a soccer game that same day. I remembered my high school graduation. I walked across that stage with honors, but my parents were too busy talking about Jessica's upcoming audition for a local commercial. I remembered my wedding day. James and I had been so happy, but my parents only complained about how far they had to drive for the ceremony. Even when Ethan and Emily were born, they only visited once. They stayed for an hour before saying the babies were too fussy and leaving. James had seen how much it hurt me. We don't need them, he used to say, holding me close. We'll build our own family, a real family, one that knows how to love. And we did. We created a home filled with laughter, warmth, and kindness. Until a drunk driver stole him away. For 6 months, I had been drowning in grief, trying to hold everything together for my children, and still, I had sent my parents money, I had increased the amount when they mentioned their bills were getting higher. I had done everything I could to be the daughter they wanted. And it still wasn't enough. A choice that changed everything. Valerie returned with a small smile. Olivia is on her way. She'll be here within the hour. I let out a shaky breath. Thank you. She's amazing with kids, Valerie assured me. She used to work with trauma victims at the children's hospital before becoming a private nanny. I hesitated. How much will this cost? I was already drowning in medical bills. James's insurance had limits, and every dollar mattered. Don't worry about that now, Valerie said firmly. We'll figure it out later. Right now, you need to focus on your health. But I was worried. And then, an idea hit me. The $2,500 I had been sending my parents every month, money I had sacrificed from my own children, could be used for something better. For Olivia. For childcare. For our survival. That small thought ignited something inside me, a tiny flame that had been buried for years. Self-preservation. When Olivia arrived, she was everything Valerie had promised: kind, gentle, understanding. My children took to her instantly. And as the hospital staff prepared me for surgery, I made another decision. Valerie, I said weakly, can you bring me my phone? She nodded and placed it in my hands. With shaking fingers, I sent 2 messages. The first was to my bank, canceling all future payments to my parents. The second was to my parents. I will no longer be providing financial support. My children and I deserve better than being your afterthoughts. Do not contact me again. I stared at the message for a long time before pressing send. A sense of calm washed over me. I had spent my entire life trying to earn their love. I was done. As they wheeled me toward the operating room, fear still lingered, fear of the unknown, fear of the surgery. But underneath it, stronger than anything else. I never promised to support my parents forever. I had only agreed to help them out after they retired, but over time, they started expecting it as their right. Mom, Dad, I'm recovering from surgery and taking care of 2 toddlers. This conversation is over, I said firmly. They kept knocking on my door, begging, but I ignored them. Later that day, my dad sent an email to the whole family, accusing me of abandoning them after they had sacrificed everything for me. He left out the part where they refused to help me during my emergency surgery. Instead, he made me sound like an ungrateful daughter who had cut them off for no reason. But they didn't expect what happened next. My cousin Michael, who lived near them, replied to everyone, Uncle Robert, didn't you just buy a new boat last month? And Aunt Diana, wasn't that a new diamond bracelet you showed off at Thanksgiving? Other relatives started asking me for the real story. Even Aunt Patty called, shocked. They told me you were just being dramatic about a routine procedure. She admitted, I had no idea you had emergency surgery. Even my sister, Jessica, had finally seen the truth. She helped me write a simple reply to the family. I recently had emergency surgery with serious risks. My parents refused to watch my kids because they had concert tickets. Right now, I'm focusing on recovering and caring for my twins. The support I received was overwhelming. Michael's wife brought me home-cooked meals. A distant cousin offered to babysit for free. Jessica started visiting every weekend, getting to know her niece and nephew. Most surprisingly, Valerie from the hospital introduced me to a support group for widowed parents. They held a Zoom meeting so I could join from home, and for the first time since James died, I felt understood. Meanwhile, my parents' financial situation was falling apart. They had been living beyond their means, counting on my money to fund their expensive lifestyle. Jessica found out they had taken out a second mortgage to buy their boat, assuming I'd always help with their main mortgage. They've been lying to everyone, she said, shocked. They're not broke, they just spent too much. They'd be fine if they sold the boat and timeshare. As their finances collapsed, their messages to me became more desperate. One day, Jessica called with big news. They got a foreclosure notice, she said. The bank is giving them 60 days to catch up on payments, or they'll lose the house. What about their retirement money? I asked, bouncing Emily on my knee while Ethan napped. Mostly gone. Dad invested in some bad scheme. They lost almost everything. Jessica sighed. I'm not saying you should help them. I just thought you should know. That night, my parents sent frantic texts, no longer pretending to care about me, just begging for money. My mom even admitted, we never thought you'd actually cut us off. We assumed you'd be mad for a while but start sending money again. Their words made me furious. After everything I had done for them, they still saw me as their personal bank, not their daughter. Meanwhile, my own life was finally improving. The support group became my lifeline. Through them, I met Diana, a real estate agent who lost her husband to cancer. She helped me think about selling my tiny apartment and moving somewhere more affordable with better childcare options. I also started a side business making memorial websites. Inspired by the one I made for James, people from the support group hired me, and word spread. For the first time since becoming a widow, I had something that gave me purpose. As I moved forward, my parents' situation got worse. One day, they showed up at my apartment with a spreadsheet of their debts. "We need $144,000 to save the house," my dad said, sounding desperate. I let them in, not because I felt obligated, but because I was curious. "What about selling the boat?" I asked. "We'd lose money," Dad said. "And the timeshare?" "We've tried, but the market's bad," Mom said quickly. "Besides, that's part of our retirement." I almost laughed. "Retirement luxuries you can't afford. We could afford them with your help," Dad snapped. "After everything we've done for you, it's the least you can do." I looked at them and asked, "What exactly have you done for me?" Silence. Just then, Ethan and Emily toddled into the room. My mom's face softened as she reached for Emily, but Emily hid behind my legs. "They don't know you," I said. "You've seen them maybe 3 times. You chose not to be involved." "That's not fair," Dad argued. "We're busy people. Too busy for your only grandkids. Too busy to help me through surgery, but not too busy to ask for money," I said. "That tells me everything I need to know." My mom's face crumpled. I couldn't tell if it was real or just another attempt to guilt me. "If you don't help us, we'll lose everything," she whispered. "I lost my husband," I replied calmly. "My children lost their father. We survived. You will too." 3 months later, my parents were forced to sell their house. Jessica kept me updated. Though I stayed distant, they found a small condo, much smaller than their 4,000 square foot lake house. Dad sold his boat for less than he paid, and they got rid of the timeshare for almost nothing. Jessica later told me, "They're telling everyone you ruined them." "Let them talk," I said, unbothered. "The truth speaks for itself."